Good evening, one and all, and good morning to some places out there who are listening in. This, every day, just madness, craziness, insanity. Biden only lasted 36 days before he had to cut loose with a military, U.S. military airstrike in Syria on a building allegedly being used by Iranian-backed rebels. We believe that, right? We believe everything they say. Meanwhile, Senator Rand Paul he absolutely just destroyed that crazy Dr. Rachel Levine over its desire to give hormone therapy to little 3-year-old children to change their sexes. This country is gone. This kind of thing, if somebody were to tell me this 5 or 10 years ago, I would say it's not possible. It just couldn't happen here. But that and much more is in fact going on all the time. Wow.
You have to be able to think like the enemy thinks. You have to be able to see things from the enemy's perspective, not just yours, because you'll self-deceive. So the things you look for is what's called intelligence indicators. For example, increasing chatter, like when there's going to be a war, the press in the country that the war is going to be in, increases the chatter because they're preparing the public for the war that's to come. Okay, we also know by listening to the chatter that that's coming. Okay. Well, I mean, we don't have access to the NSA, but you can go on the internet and you can look at Asahi Shimbun, the Japanese newspaper. You can go right to the news of any country on earth and read it right from their country, and then read it from the neighboring country's point of view, and then you can get a picture of what's going on. Well, here's the scary thing about the chatter is it's increasing so fast that it's hard for me to keep up for it. Like when I started this, when I started collecting this intelligence, I would in the morning get one piece of intelligence, and by that night I had to change it. I got my last piece of intelligence just 30 minutes ago. Okay, this is how fast it is. It's increasing in tempo. Okay, so another thing that you look for, just like chatter is a massing of conversation, well, you have massing of troops too. So you look for like troop massing, like in China across from the Taiwan Strait, troops have massed there. They're still massing there. They're just putting all their assets right there for the invasion. That's a clear indication that they want to invade.
Excuse me, Mitch. This is the PLA right now massing. Right now.
Yes, they're massing on the Taiwan Strait to do it. Okay, there's countries are mobilizing. They're mobilizing. They're sending their country, their militaries to weapons-free status, which means they can shoot any time. I'll go into this and stuff. Okay, so let me just get going to try to put together what I found out. Please keep in mind that in strategy, you always attack where and when your opponent is weak. Okay, so in Taiwan, we are getting closer to the war breaking out. China has been emboldened by Biden's lack of commitment to its allies. We're meeting with the leaders of Japan, Australia, and India to discuss freedom of navigation in international waters that China claims. The leaders of Japan, India, and Australia were shocked at Biden's lack of any commitment to support freedom of navigation or to punish China for its bullying. India, Australia, and Japan have decided to go it alone, not counting on any American help against China at all. Biden just babbled on about opening up trade again with China to make everybody rich and how we must understand that China in the context of its culture, that the same standards do not apply equally everywhere. China doesn't have to behave like other countries do. You have to understand them, he says. So the government of India says that it's really just a gambit to make the Biden family rich, and that China is blackmailing Biden because they have information that would put the Biden family in prison for corruption, using his public office to enrich his family, and for treason against the United States. As being, it's like Joe Biden is the real Manchurian candidate under complete Chinese Communist Party control. They believe that Biden is a puppet of the CCP, of the Chinese Communist Party. Now, this is India, Australia, Vietnam, these countries. They think Biden's a puppet. Okay, on February 1st, when the Communist Party of China passed a law saying that the Chinese Coast Guard can open fire on any ship, to include private ships and fishing boats, in the South China Sea, okay, India, Australia, and Japan stated clearly that if China opened fire on any of its civilian or military ships, it would start a war, okay? That's minutes away from starting a war, you realize. That could happen any minutes. Now,
wow.
So yeah. Biden had no comment and made no promise to protect even American shipping. Japan caught some Chinese military ships in the Senkaku Islands. Japanese Maritime Defense Force commander said that Japan will henceforth attack any Chinese ship caught in Japanese waters. No more warnings. The Philippines, in response to China's new Coast Guard weapons-free legislation, stated that they will open fire first on any Chinese-flagged vessel and their legal international waters. Okay? So those are things that could start a war. Just one guy pulling the trigger can start a war. Okay? The U.S. Congress... in the U.S. Congress, the Taiwan Protection Act that was passed by the Democratic House of Representatives under Trump has been reintroduced under Biden. Biden is lobbying Democratic congressmen not to pass the bill because he does not want to maintain bad relations with China. He wants to kowtow to Chairman Xi, his boss. Okay. With a weak commitment of Biden to counter China, Biden's indifference to Taiwan, and China's increasing belligerence to all of its neighbors, Taiwan is in mortal danger. This emboldens China to go ahead and make its move on invading Taiwan, which will start World War III. Okay?
Yeah.
Just a few days ago, well, this is just yesterday, actually, a squadron of Chinese communist fighters flew over Taiwan. Taiwan turned on the anti-aircraft radars and warned the Chinese aircraft to leave their airspace or they would shoot them down. Okay? Mm-hmm. They had not done that before. They told them to leave, and they never threatened to shoot them down. Okay? But now, the Chinese left, of course. But what this is another thing that happens when you get ready, even if it's a small battle. You always send patrols out to probe the enemy lines, to find their weak points, to find how they're going to react to things and stuff. Okay? So what this was, it's the People's Liberation Army probing Taiwanese defense system. To stay credible, Taiwan is going to have to start shooting at some point. They can't just let them be flying over their area. They're going to have to shoot them down. That will start a war. Okay, so the Taiwan issue and Chinese bullying is like pouring gasoline on the area, and it's only waiting for a match to ignite it. That match could be Japanese ships attacking Chinese ships, more Chinese Navy and Air Force probes on Taiwan that leads Taiwan to open fire on communist aircraft or ships, or the attack by Chinese Coast Guard on any ship in international waters. It's that simple, okay? Why could this war break out any day? Precisely because Biden has shown weakness. Keep in mind that India is already
weakness,
at war
Mitch.
with China.
He's shown mental derangement, Alzheimer's, and senility off the chart. That's weakness, all right. I agree.
Yes, not only that, but in foreign policy, he's just demonstrating weakness after weakness.
Yes.
Okay, so keep in mind that India is already at war with China, and Australia is already in a major trade war with China right now. This stuff is on Indian news and on Australian news daily, and it's not on any news in America.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
In my discussion of World War II, I described how this war would likely spread to the Middle East because China gets most of its oil from Iran. Remember, modern war consumes 20 gallons of gasoline per soldier per day. That's 60 million gallons of gasoline per day that China needs to launch their attack on Taiwan. And India has built a Navy Air Force base in the Andaman Islands that can sink any ship approaching the Malacca Straits. If the Chinese try to go south of the Malacca Straits, Australia has committed their Navy to sink them. Okay? So they can launch a blockade and cut China off from oil. So standing alone in the Middle East, Biden has shown his weakness and duplicity for canceling arms sales to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. He took the Houthis in Yemen off the Islamic terrorist organization list, only to have the Houthis launch multiple terrorist attacks inside Saudi Arabia within days of them being delisted as terrorists. Instead, he lists straight white male soldiers and veterans as domestic terrorists, while also listing current straight white male law enforcement officers and former officers as domestic terrorists, and pushing the Department of Justice and FBI attacks upon these patriots, the very people who would fight on the front lines for America. Okay, so Biden's begging at Iran's feet to get back into the JCPOA agreement with Iran has shown all nations in the region that the USA is aligning itself with Iran and Iran's interests to the detriment of the Sunni Arab nations that have decided to create their own nuclear weapons programs to counter Iran. So if we thought we had a problem with Iran making nuclear weapons, the Sunni Arab countries have a lot more money. They have the technology. They can make nuclear weapons too. They already know how to do it. So what's Biden going to do about that problem? Okay.
I don't think. Mitch. I don't honestly.
There's no thinking ahead. Yes.
No, and the only thinking ahead seems to be being done by Obama and Susan Rice and any of the other losers who are running this alleged administration. It's pathetic.
Oh, they are pathetic. I mean, it is. Wait till you hear everything. It's so bad. Okay, so Israel has mobilized its military since Biden took office and has extensive maneuvers to be ready for war. Since our Department of State has said that it is open to reducing or eliminating sanctions on Iran to get Iran back into the JCPOA with us, to which Iran responded by kicking the IAEA inspectors out of Iran and blocking them from inspecting sites, has put Israel in a position where if any sanctions are listed on Iran, they will attack Iran. They have stated, we will attack Iran if the sanctions are lifted. Okay, that's the trigger for war right there. All we got to do is lift sanctions, and we've pulled the trigger for World War III. Keep in mind that Israel is saying publicly that they will attack Iranian nuclear sites, but IDF documents show clearly that they will not resort to such partial measures, but on the contrary, bomb Iran back to the Stone Age so they could be no further threat. I've read these documents before, okay?
Right.
They're actually public documents in Israel. Israel needs to do this to make it unnecessary for the Sunni Arab nations to build their own nuclear arsenal. The fact that Israel is the only nation in the region that is nuclear armed is the ace in their hand for an alliance with these Sunni Arab nations. So Biden only wants to destabilize the region more and cause more death and destruction. We'll further go into that in a few minutes. Okay, right. So Why could this war break out any day? Because Biden has shown weakness, duplicity, and has betrayed the alliance that Trump created in the Middle East to whore himself to Iran. The Ayatollah Khomeini declared that having sex with even a baby is moral in the eyes of Allah. Perhaps Peter Joe just wants to be friends with people that are like him. I don't know. That was tongue-in-cheek. But anyways, at the outset of the attacks on Iran, Israel is now ready to invade Lebanon to completely destroy Hezbollah in Lebanon, and have notified the Lebanese that they will completely destroy their nation as it is sanctuary for Iranian proxies. Russia will keep Syria out of the conflict. Israel is also will destroy Hamas in the Gaza Strip, regardless of the cost to the people that live there. A war between Iran and Israel will mean a war against Iran, Yemen, Lebanon, and without a doubt, the UAE and Saudi Arabia will crush Yemen. Okay. So this phase of World War III will weaken Iran, the Sunni nations, and Israel. When they are weak, Turkey will invade Syria and Israel. Turkey right now has troops in Syria, northern Iraq, Azerbaijan, and Libya fighting Russian soldiers. Erdogan wants to reestablish the Ottoman Empire, or to just simply call it what he calls it, the Caliphate. Okay, this is the war that could have Russia delivering attacks on Turkish soil, which could spark an Article 5 reaction by NATO. Even last year, Turkey asked NATO to help them with its 4 wars, but NATO refused because no one attacked Turkey. It was Turkey attacking other sovereign nations. A Russian attack on Turkey could change that. Okay, so what have Turkey's enemies done? They have created an alliance that runs in an arc from Greece to Cyprus. Turkey illegally occupied northern Cyprus for decades and has declared them an independent nation. To Israel, to Egypt, who has to worry about the Turks in Libya? Jordan, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, and Oman. They practice and are prepared for war against Turkey. This is a military alliance to protect Middle Eastern or Eastern Mediterranean oil and gas. And this was the update that I got the same day. On Monday, the 22nd, France and Italy asked to join that alliance, and it's a military alliance.
Okay.
The U.S. Navy conducted naval maneuvers with them around Cyprus, but Biden also sent Navy ships to the Black Sea to reassure Turkey that we are still allies. It actually makes the U.S. look unfaithful and untrustworthy. We cannot be on everybody's side at the same time, okay? The Eastern Mediterranean Alliance is all about protecting oil, so it is reasonable that the Archer defense goes to China, Iran's ally and biggest supplier of petroleum. To extend that arc of defense from Israel to its very close ally India, both India and Israel have excellent relations with Russia. Israel has been helping build up the armed forces of Vietnam, as has Russia. Israel, with the help of its Sunni Muslim allies, is also increasing the military powers of the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, Indonesia, and India. Saudi Arabia has unfriended Pakistan as an ally because it is in bed with the Chinese and the Iranians. The Sunni Arab nations hate China because China is openly genociding Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang province to the west.
Lots of them.
But Joe said that's okay because the Chinese are different. They're allowed to genocide people. Okay.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So, okay. So it's not that the U.S. is building military strength to contain China, but nations like India, Israel, Japan, and Russia are selling advanced weapons to Vietnam and other Southeast Asian allies, and the absence of U.S. participation is deafening. Okay. I mean, shouldn't we be selling weapons to all these people? The very fact that they're buying weapons and they're getting the most modern stuff that they can indicates that they're getting ready for war. You don't pour all that money into weapons if you're not going to use them. Okay. So Biden is a fairly competent complicated its situation, by trying to buddy up with Iran while simultaneously tasking the CIA to overthrow the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The CIA is also funding both Al-Qaeda and Kurdish Marxist forces in Syria and insists on destroying Syria. I'm sure that this emboldened the Iranians to attack the Saudi royal palace with 3 drones yesterday, and with not a complaint from Biden. Iran has attacked U.S. Iraqi military base in Iraqi Kurdistan, with Biden dropping some bombs near some Iranian-backed militias on Syrian territory in what he calls a proportionate response to that attack.
A proportionate response.
Yeah, it's just a show meaning nothing and having no impact on Iran. Why are we bombing a nation, Syria, that has not attacked us? Yet Iran
why did Trump send 55 or whatever Tomahawk missiles into Syria? Same thing. Why did Trump oversee the theft of Syria's oil fields and the selling off of Syria's oil nonstop, which Biden is continuing to do? Because it's all controlled by the Pentagon and sources and powers above that. It's all about greed,
they're actually
money.
Doubling down. They're doubling down. Let's put it this way: Trump did not represent the military-industrial complex. Biden is pure 100% military-industrial complex.
110%. You got it. Hold on, Mitch, just a minute. We have to pause and thank our sponsors who make this all possible. The best products in the world. Quite clearly towards something not pleasant. And it's going to be unfortunately, I think, a very large unpleasant. Your thoughts on that when we get to that point in your exposition tonight? I'd be curious to hear how bad you think it's going to be. A lot of people are pushing scenarios out there, screenplays, ideas, hunches, and they're all interesting because they share one thing in common. A lot of people are going to die, whether it's from the fake vaccine, a nuclear war, mass starvation, or a new and second, either viral or bacterial organism that will be turned loose to drive the fear porn permanently home in the masses. It's a tough situation out there. Go ahead, Mitchell.
Okay, so let's get to the third big theory of war, which is NATO and Europe. So Biden had his talk with the NATO leaders in Munich, and it was NATO made it very clear that they do not trust the USA to help them with anything. Francis Macron declared NATO brain dead. He said that Europe does not want U.S. leadership on anything at all. He said the U.S. is incompetent and completely unreliable. Macron also rejected Biden's drive to make Russia the common enemy of NATO, France preferring Russia to be in NATO than the USA. Okay. Remember Putin's Christmas speech decrying the moral relativism of the USA, the USA's penchant for stirring up racial and ethnic hatred instead of mutual respect among the peoples? In the New York Times article on February 10th, it says, in simmering race and gender struggle, France blames U.S. ideas, woke leftism cited as a threat to the nation. The article states, the threat is said to be existential. This is an American cultural threat to France. It fuels secessionism, gnaws at national unity, abets Islamism, attacks France's intellectual and cultural heritage. The threat, certain social science theories, entirely imported from the United States, said President Emmanuel Macron. French politicians, high-profile intellectuals, and journalists are warning that the progressive American ideas, especially on race, gender, and post-colonialism, are undermining their society. Okay? I'm a little surprised to hear this from the French, but they're starting to see a problem with this also. Okay? I feel what's happening to us, the USA is the new Soviet Union. We are the enemy of humanity and a threat to all nations in the world now. Macron is sounding in agreement with Putin, and his fears for Russia as the same fears that France must fear from the USA. Under Biden, we are the bad guys, a threat to world peace. We are a threat to all humanity itself. Biden's Marxist totalitarian dictatorship is not just a threat to Americans, but a threat to the world. Biden told German Chancellor Angela Merkel that he was reversing Trump's decision to pull the last 12,000 troops from Germany. Merkel wants them out. Okay, he was saying it to her like, "Oh, I'm doing you this favor," and Merkel wants them all out. The whole thing does not benefit Germany, and the front lines have moved so that the troop presence is not necessary, and Germany doesn't want to pay for it. NATO is uninterested in America's weak but woke military helping them in anything. But I'll be honest here, their militaries are not much better. Okay, so they're a little self-delusional there. Biden also tried to tell Germany that they need to stop the Nord Stream pipeline, and Merkel says no, they need that pipeline of Russian fuel to come in to make energy cheap in Germany to improve their economy. Meanwhile, Biden cancels the Keystone Pipeline and stops the search for fuel sources in America, which has already increased the cost of energy to the average American, while energy companies still make plenty of money. You can still make a profit by selling the scarce commodity at greatly inflated prices if they are a necessary good. Merkel said, absolutely not. Germany will cooperate with Russia for cheaper energy to stimulate the German economy. Furthermore, Merkel said that Russia was more important to Germany than the U.S. is, and that Russia is not a common enemy, just an enemy to the Democratic Party because the Republicans made no such demands of Germany. Okay? European leaders have zero faith in Biden's leadership. This shows NATO weakness. It makes war with Russia more likely should the cause arise. Russia has developed very low-yield nuclear weapons to use on those European nations that side with the United States and tends to use them not only on military targets, but civilian targets if necessary. At this point, many European nations would only give moral support to NATO members attacked by Russia. Russia has been cultivating this attitude by not being threatening to its neighbors who are uninterested in supporting the so-called American values that many see as having no values at all, or satanic values at best. Biden is actually leading the decline of both of America and American power. This NATO cold shoulder to Biden is the weakness Russia wants to see. Russia plans for the USA, including hitting American metropolitan areas with nukes, with pillars of fire raining down on Sodom and Gomorrah. Putin just wants to destroy the Marxist America that is concentrated in the major metropolitan areas, not the moral rural people. His intelligence agencies are excellent, better than ours. He knows what the situation is here. He knows what people he needs to take out. Okay. Another outright signal to the rest of the world that it is no longer has to fear the United States or accept its leadership is how Biden has weakened and divided our military and law enforcement by taking this opportunity to purge all non-cultural Marxist straight white males from the military and law enforcement. Just as COVID was the pretext to destroy our nation so that Democrats could rig an election and destroy our economy to create a communist state, now the invisible and almost non-existent boogeyman of white supremacy is being used to purge the military of the straight white males that make up the majority of our combat infantrymen and special forces. We will have nothing but social justice warriors, LGBT, POCs, and women in our military. they are not combat effective, and any enemy would know it. Even our friends know that, okay? Just as fear is the currency of control, weakness is the coin of war. Why is World War III so critical to the elites in power, to the global plutocracy? As I explained before, okay, they have to get the 7 great powers out of the war, because the next guy who's going to be the leader of the world leader, which is sometimes just called the world leader in religious circles. To the Islam, he's called the Mahdi. To the Jewish people, he's called the Messiah. To the Christian people, he's called the Antichrist. Okay,
right.
So the Antichrist is not going to be negotiating with any other country. Okay, so he's going to be what he says goes. There will be no negotiation. So that balance of power thing will not make any difference at all. So I have to tell you, this is just amazing. But just before I came on, I received some information that Saudi Arabia, Israel, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates have decided to form a formal mutual defense treaty. That an attack on one is an attack on all.
Right. UAE, Israel, and MBS. That's what this is all about. Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman. All right. So what this is, it's very interesting. It's a reuniting of the Zionist Bolshevik created Wahhabis with Israel. Think about it. And the UAE must not be far behind. They're probably very well penetrated with Israeli agents and influence. So this is very funny.
Well, I think more countries will be signing on. I see Jordan and Egypt signing on.
Oh, that's the idea. They're going to try and put together.
I can see them signing on.
Yes, that's what they're trying to do. Yep.
Okay, and here's the thing: is in this briefing that I saw, okay, they said that none of these countries want to invite the United States to be a part of that treaty. They say the United States is an obstacle to peace, an obstacle to they're just an obstacle to getting anything accomplished in the world peacefully. The United States is a war country. Not only that, but it ties people's hands. Okay.
Are you reading from something? Are you reading from something?
No, this is what I saw. I just took a few notes down. But
this is hysterical. How much money have we given the Jewish state? Over 2 trillion, 3 trillion? Who knows? Yeah.
But, Biden has been very unfriendly to Israel since he came in, and he's been very unfriendly to the Arab countries. He's been kissing Iran's ass while what he's doing is he's creating a new war. This is a military-industrial complex. He's picking this war. This is not a war of just stupidity. The people behind Biden are picking this war. They are making this war happen, okay? So it's like you have to understand, Israel has been offered a mutual defense treaty with the United States before. Are you aware of that?
I vaguely remember something about it. Yeah.
During the 73 war, the United States offered Israel, they said, well, if you give the Golan Heights back to Syria...
That's what it was.
We will make a mutual defense treaty with you. And Israel thought about it, and they consulted the generals, and they says, well, listen, anybody who has control of the Golan Heights can wipe out Israel. It's too easy. It's too strategic for Israel.
Not anymore. Back then, yes. Not anymore. Yeah. Back then, yes.
Yeah. So what they decided was that it was more important to control the Golan Heights than it was to have America as an ally. Because let
me say one other thing, Mitchell, about the Golan Heights. I would urge all of you out there to pull up a map and look at Israel and Syria and the Golan Heights. This is not a little 2 or 3 mile area. This is an enormous piece of land. It's big. It's not just a little height.
On the south side of the Golan Heights, it overlooks the Galilee Valley, okay? On the north side of the heights, it overlooks Damascus, the capital of Syria. And what happened during the 73 war is, I remember this because I was in a tactical nuclear unit, and we went weapons free. We went nuclear weapons free in October 73 for the Yom Kippur War because Russia started mobilizing troops and sending troops to Syria because they back then we had a rule with Russia. It was called the 48-hour rule. There was an agreement between the United States and Russia that before we launched a war on each other, that we would give 48 hours to talk. Okay? And what the Soviet Union told us is we cannot allow Israel to take Damascus. We simply can't allow it. We will go to a nuclear war if Israel takes Damascus. So the United States had to get Israel to cease fire and back down to avoid a nuclear war back then. Most people are oblivious that we came that close to a nuclear war in 1973, but we were extremely close. I was there with our finger on the button. It could have happened any time.
Wow.
But you know what? Here's the thing, Jeff, is I started following what's going on in the world to try to predict, like when one country is going to go to a war, whatever, with another one. And years ago, I'd see maybe an article or something once every 3 months or 4 months. There might be something of interest, a little bit of chatter that is indicating that there could be some big trouble, okay? But then it came up to where it was like, well, say under Trump it was once a month or maybe every couple weeks there might be something. Now it is accelerated so fast, Jeff, that if I'm going to get on the radio and talk with you about this, it's like my last information comes just minutes before I talk to you. That's how fast the situation is evolving. It's going very fast.
I've been feeling that, and you're underscoring my intuition. I've said this is all going now at light speed, practically, when you talk about normal geopolitics and international relations. Never mind domestic annihilation of culture, quality of people, of life. This is happening, really. They got the pedal welded to the floor on this. I've never seen anything like it.
To the floor. We're headed so fast for World War III, it's not funny. Let me bring up some other things, because there's other things that they're doing, too. If you remember, this was like 3, 4, 5 years ago. Spain and Portugal and Italy and Greece were in big trouble because they owed too much money to their pensioners and had to provide health care. So their aging population was actually destroying their economies, okay, because they had to take care of all these people. Now, they worked for these pensions and they worked for these benefits, but it turned out they were too generous, as benefits are always too generous to the little people. Okay, but at any rate, what happened is it is so convenient that this COVID epidemic comes out. And really, it just attacks the old people. I mean, you have Mario Cuomo putting COVID patients into nursing homes to kill old people.
Genocide in full view. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called genocide. When you try to kill off all your old people, it's called genocide. Is the proper word for it, okay? Well, there's an interesting article I picked up in the paper the other day. Last Saturday in Maryland, they were moving the labs. They were moving from an old building to a new building. And then the desk drawer, unsecured, in an unsecured office, in an unsecured, desk, they found 6 vials of smallpox virus. Okay.
Where was this again,
if
please?
nobody's ever seen a vial of a virus, it just looks like white crystals. They all look the same.
Where was this again, please,
like
Mitch?
crystals.
Where was this?
Maryland.
And what facility?
On Saturday.
What facility?
It was at Fort Detrick.
Okay,
it was one of our military research labs.
Got
it. But just think ahead on this. So they say, they found these smallpox vials just sitting there unsecured. Okay, well, see, like the coronavirus leaked from some lab in China, allegedly. Are we waiting for a leak of the smallpox virus? Because if you were born before 1971, you're vaccinated against smallpox. But if you were born after 1971, that means everybody 50 years old and younger is vulnerable. It will kill 60% of people that contact it. And if you think this virus spreads fast, smallpox virus can wipe through a population like a knife going through butter. Okay, it's a very serious disease. Lots of countries have it. Russia has it. The United States has it. Great Britain has it. China has it. North Korea has it. Probably Turkey has it. Probably everybody has some.
Probably.
So anywhere, are they preparing us mentally for the possibility that smallpox could leak out of the lab? Okay, and that would kill off 60% of the world population. But what
they told me there were going to be two. They told me there were going to be two, and that could be the next one. You're right, but they don't want to lose their Generation Z. They want their young, malleable, empty-headed servants. They want to train them. So I don't know if it would kill off.
Once the baby boomers are gone, they could go ahead and start vaccinating people with smallpox again. But anyway, what you're looking at is a Plan A and Plan B. Okay, so the World War is a plan to exterminate not all of humanity, but cut our numbers down quite a bit. Okay, a la Bill Gates, got to cut those numbers, population down, and stuff. And so they have Plan A, World War II, World War III. Plan B, they can unleash this virus, or they can just do both and get the war over quicker. Okay, they can pile it on if they want to. Anyways, what usually follows war is famine, and what follows famine is pestilence, plagues, whatever. It's the routine thing that happens in world history. Okay. I might mention another thing, because, see, they had this boogeyman of global warming that people just weren't very afraid of. That's why they had to come up with terrorism, and they had to come up with COVID, and now white terrorism and stuff like that. They keep coming up with these boogeymen. I saw this scientific report. So they've had this satellite since 1979 taking temperature of the whole Earth. Okay, now this is taking spot temperatures in different countries and then averaging them out and matching them year to year. This is a satellite that's looking at the temperature of the entire Earth. Okay, so from 1979 to 2020, do you know how much the temperature of the Earth has actually increased? 0.12 degrees, which is scientifically insignificant.
1/10 of 1%. Ridiculous is right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and they're making you pay more for gas. Okay, based on a fiction. Okay, you know what? See, they can't remember. Biden can't remember France like last year. Remember the yellow vests were protesting every day, shutting down highways and stuff. That was over a carbon tax. And what does Biden want to pass in Congress? A carbon tax.
Sure.
Okay. Oh, this didn't work somewhere else, so let's try it. This is the Democratic Party way of thinking of things, This hasn't worked anywhere else, so let's do it.